Facebook allows them to come on. And truthfully, there's got to be a better media than Zuckerberg's, but this is what I got for now.
Yeah.
Anyways, I believe we are online and live. So welcome, friends and family and passersby. I'm so delighted to be here this evening with a dear friend of my family, a creative artist, a rabbi and a creative artist walk into a Zoom is what we've titled tonight's session with my friend Elmore James. Welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting me. That's so thoughtful of you.
I was trying to think the first time that I remember meeting you, but I think I was with my bubby, my grandmother, who you knew, and we were just so taken aback by your voice and your soulfulness, and have had the privilege of schmoozing with you on the sidelines, as it were.
I remember you sang in the finale and you were standing right next to me.
Yeah?
Yes. I thought you were great, yeah.
But Elmore has had a versatile career on opera and theater stages, and so tonight we're going to use it as an opportunity to schmooze, and also to talk a little bit about what's going on in our country at the moment.
German?
What is it?
Schmoozen? Do you know what schmoozen means in German?
No.
It's snuggling.
Is it?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yeah.
Snuggling with words. Elmore, so where are you from? Von wannen kommt Yid?
I'm a Latin from Manhattan, baby. I'm from New York City. I grew up in Manhattan. At first, it was, you know where St. John the Divine is?
I do.
Right down the hill from there, across the street from Morningside Park.
Wow.
And then when my parents separated, I lived in the dead middle of Harlem, which was by this time, which was the like mid 60s.
Mm.
It was little boy. I was a little boy, but it was.
I was going to ask, how old were you when your parents separated?
9. And yeah, it was much different neighborhood, much more dangerous.
Yeah.
And I was terrified living there. I seen some horrible, horrible violence.
What was going on?
Well, I mean, it was mid 60s that there started to be this whole uproar in the country, and civil rights and all of that stuff. The Black Panthers started coming out. And as a matter of fact, the Black Panthers had a headquarters right next door to the building that I lived in.
Really?
But they were great. I mean, they weren't terrorists or anything like that. They were really there to serve the community.
Right.
So I felt comfortable with them. As a matter of fact, if I knew that we were going to talk about that tonight, I would have shown you a picture that I took of my cousin took of me. I emulated the Black Panthers. I had like a black beret. I was only like 12 or something.
Wow.
But I loved them. Yeah.
Wow.
And this was on 122nd Street.
I was going to ask, you were a little boy though. So what did you know of the Black Panthers? Nothing.
I just knew that they were doing good.
Protecting the neighborhood.
Yeah, there was no fear of them. They weren't, this kind of aggressive people. They were very intelligent. And where we lived, I lived on 122nd Street, and then it was called 7th Avenue. I don't know what it's called now. Malcolm X
Boulevard. Yeah, I think so. No?
Maybe. Anyway, 7th Avenue. And so I was
Clayton Powell or something. Yeah.
I was 3 blocks away from the Apollo Theater and the Teresa Hotel, where a lot of famous people, like artists who played the Apollo Theater, would stay. And you would have people, I saw Malcolm X talking.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't so conscious then, you know what I mean?
Wow. How old were you?
10, 11, because he died when I was 10, just before I turned 11.
That must have made an impact though.
It
or not? Was it in past? Did you go? Was it at a venue, or where did you hear him speak?
on the street.
On the street.
Yeah, like soapbox kind of thing.
Wow.
And also Bobby Kennedy.
Wow.
And I love Bobby Kennedy. I just thought those two men mean so much to me because of who they became, not what they were.
Hmm.
Malcolm X was a street hustler, pimp, whatever, really a bad guy who turned his life around. And Bobby Kennedy was pretty much of a jerk too. You know, he worked with Roy Cohn and the House Un-Americans Activities Committee, and but he changed too after he went to, I think it was Mississippi, and he saw how really the indigent, poor Black people were living. He changed his whole view of the world, and yeah, I love both of those men. They're two of my heroes.
There's a certain graciousness or like an expansiveness of the heart that's required on your part, though, on anyone's part, to say, well, this is who a person was and this is who a person became, and to honor that, and just to honor all of that, who they were, where they've been, and to still be able to
There's nobody I trust more than somebody who chooses not to do evil. A reformed crook who you can't buy.
I love that. It reminds me of a verse from Psalms, actually. It says, lovers of God despise wickedness. And it's like, you need to know wickedness in order to despise it. You need to have some type of familiarity.
There's a friend of mine who's trying to find this link. How do I get them to get
This is a great question. I'm going to try and share it as Elmore is speaking on many different
Facebook, right?
It's through Facebook. So folks go to my Facebook page, Avram Lotek, but I'm going to also, and Elmore is tagged there too. So hopefully it'll appear on your page as well, Elmore, but it'll be online afterwards so we can share it too. Okay, so you were a little boy living in Harlem. Did you have siblings?
Oh yeah. My father had 3 daughters from a former marriage. And then he had 2, they had 2 sons, my mother and father, me and my brother Calvin. My mother had 2 sons before my father. So I was the youngest of 7.
Wow.
Yeah. But then when my parents divorced, my sister stayed with him, and we were kind of separated, even though not really estranged. And later my mother got married again, and then she had another baby, a daughter. So I have my sister Vicky, who's 18 years younger than I am.
Wow. And were you close with this slew of siblings growing up?
Yes, all except for one. My oldest brother was a sociopath. And sociopaths have brothers, right?
Of course, they do.
And I was the brother of a sociopath.
They do, yeah.
He started out as my hero, though. He was the most talented, handsome. He could do anything. By the time he was 15, he had a wall full of trophies from high jump, basketball,
wow,
pole vaulting, baseball. He was just amazing. He played the trumpet, and the girls loved him. He could sing, but he was my hero. But he had I wouldn't call it a mean streak, because mean implies some kind of emotion or something. It was more flat aspect or something. I don't know what to call it. Just there was no empathy.
A dark side.
I guess you could say that, yeah.
And where did you go to school growing up?
Okay, elementary and junior high school, I went to school in Harlem. And what I loved about those schools was that my teachers, for the most part, were Black.
Hmm.
And in those days, Black teachers of any standing couldn't get a job in a white school.
Right.
So we had the best teachers. I had some great teachers. And so that gave me my right, a good, what do you call it, beginning, foundation.
Right.
And then when, and I had only gone to school with Black kids. I'd only gone to school with Black kids. And until I went to high school. I went to the High School of Performing Arts.
Whoa.
Which was, for people who might remember the film Fame, it was that school.
Did you go for theater, for voice, or for?
No, I went for acting. I wanted to be in show business since before I went to school.
Really?
Little boy, about 3 years old, I wanted to be in show business because when all of my brothers and sisters went to school, I stayed home and I watched reruns of old I Love Lucy. And I fell in love with her genius. Not only was she funny, but I knew she was brilliant. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to make people laugh like that. And before my parents got divorced, in the neighborhood we were growing up in, I didn't have any friends my age. They were either my older brother's ages or younger. So the older boys weren't going to play with me, you know.
Right.
What I mean? I remember once we were choosing a baseball team, and of course I was the last one, you know. my brother's friend Freddie was like, "Yeah, okay, we'll take him." And they put me all the way in the outfield, and I never got any business out there. So I wound up, you know, putting the glove over my face and just. I was always a very solid, not solitary, self-contained person. I never had trouble being alone. I'm never lonely. So I think
we have to come back to that. I need some I want to hear some tips on that. Well, I was asking you about where you went to school.
Then I heard about the High School of Performing Arts. And in junior high school, the teacher was reading off the list of special high schools students could apply to in New York City. And when he said the High School of Performing Arts, it rang a bell because I remember when Lincoln Center opened for the first time, they had an inaugural TV special. And they called it Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts. And I thought it was a school. So when my junior high school teacher said the High School of Performing Arts, I was like, yes, that's the school I want to go to. And I didn't know anything about acting or theater or anything like that.
Were you performing though as a kid before LaGuardia? No.
I mean, you know, maybe one school play or something like
that. And what was the high school like? Did you have community and friends there?
4 years of my life. It was a very small school. It was right on 46th Street between 6th Avenue and Broadway. So our campus was the theater district.
Right.
We would cut classes and go to matinees, you know what I mean? And what I loved about it the most, we had a drama department, a instrumental music department, and a dance department. And what I loved about it is that all of my friends were super talented. I had super talented friends. And it was great to hang out with, you know, my friend Charlie Abruzzo, who could play anything on the piano, or my friend Jody Macho, who could tap dance on point. I mean, she was just amazing. These kids were great. And, you know, whenever they needed kids, they would come to us, you know, for a TV commercial or something. So, you know, I started working a little bit, did my off-Broadway debut when I was 14.
Wow, 14. What did your parents make of your high school choice?
Well, my mother loved it. My audition was so horrible. I didn't even know what a monologue was. You they said do 2 monologues, a classic monologue and a modern monologue. I didn't know what that meant. So I looked up the word monologue and I was like, oh, okay. And I got this really cheesy monologue to audition with called The Highway Restaurant. Everybody else was coming in with Our Wilderness by, this by Thornton Wilder or Tennessee Williams. And I was coming in with the Highway Restaurant by Herbert Noodleman. It was just ridiculous. And I totally blew the audition, and I didn't think I was going to make it. And I knew I had to make it because I had to get out. I always knew I was destined to go out in the world. I knew that. And I wanted to. And so I auditioned in January, and the results came in March. And when the monitor came in, around March, everybody was finding out what schools they had made, Bronx Science, whatever. And the monitors were going around taking the kids down to this, what do you call it? What do you call that person who works? Social.
What the?
Like a counselor,
Guidance counselor.
Guidance counselor. Down to the guidance counselor's office, and she would give you your results. So, I was in typing class one day, in those days we were typing.
Yeah.
In the home row, A, C, S, L, D, K, F, J. I'm just my home row. And the girl comes in and my teacher says, Elmore, please follow Linda, whatever. So I went with Linda. And as I'm walking down the hallway, it felt like I was being taken to the electric chair. Because I knew I blew it, and this was I blew my life's chance. Because if I went to the high school that all of my kids, my friends, and went to in that neighborhood, it was jail, and I didn't want to go there. So I'm sitting opposite the guidance counselor, and she's looking down. She doesn't even look at me, and then she looks up at me and she goes, "You're the only one who made the school."
Whoa.
Yeah! Jumped up and I hugged her and I ran down the hall and I called my mother and I said, I made the school. My mother was so thrilled.
Oh, wow.
And I never looked back. All of my friends that I went to school with stopped talking to me.
Really?
I was anathema from March to June. Nobody. They called me traitor. Because I got out and they didn't. And it killed me. It was a what do you call it? I can't speak tonight. Severing of the past.
Yeah.
And I was starting a whole new chapter of my life. And going down to school every day from Harlem to 46th Street was like going to Emerald City from Kansas.
Wow.
I love it.
Wow. What an analogy.
It really was. I mean, colorful characters, tall buildings, ha ha ha, ho ho ho, and a couple of tra-la-las.
Right.
It was totally that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you were immersed there. I mean, you cut classes to go to theater. You were performing.
Totally. I mean, we went to see Broadway plays. The first show I ever saw was the original production of Hair.
Whoa.
And I was like, yeah, show business, baby. Show business.
The original production, which had the nude scene in the end.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. The actors were nude and they would walk over on the armrests of all the chairs in the audience.
Wow.
I was like, yeah, this is the place to be. But also in my freshman year, I know I'm talking a lot, but
no, this is right. This is what it's for.
In my freshman year, again, I was 14. We had a school newspaper, and I was on, one of the reporters. And every now and then, we would interview famous people. And at that time, Johnny Carson, who was before Jay Leno on the Tonight Show, his show was still in New York. So my school was on 46th Street, and NBC Rockefeller Center was 49th Street.
Wow.
And so we were interviewing Doc Severinsen, who was the band leader for the Carson show. The nicest man I've ever met in show business.
Wow.
And as he's talking, he's saying, yeah, we rehearse every day from 3:30 to 5:30, and then we tape the show, and and I'm thinking, because I got out of school at 2:20.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I wonder if he'll let me come and watch rehearsal.
Mm.
So I went to him and I said, can I watch rehearsal sometime? He goes, yeah, come in anytime you want. So every day after school, I went to watch the Carson rehearsals.
Wow.
I'm sitting in NBC, all my friends know this story, so they're bored with it. But it was me, the cameraman, the band, and whoever was going to be on the show.
Wow.
Right? So the very first day I'm sitting there, and there's this Black female sitting right next to me. She had these big, like, Jackie O sunglasses on, and she looked like she was really pissed.
Mm.
And she gave off a really negative vibe. So I was a little scared of her. So I leaned on this armrest. And then out came Sammy Davis Jr.
Oh my goodness.
And he starts rehearsing. It's just, he's like 10 feet away from me. And he's rehearsing his number with the band. And nobody questioned me because obviously if I was there, I had permission to be there. Right? So nobody was questioning it. So I was kind of like behind the scenes with all these great stars. Ella Fitzgerald,
Wow.
Jerry Lewis, Bob Hope. I mean, everybody, you name it.
Did you know, you must have known though, as a kid that this was like an uncommon experience that you were tapping into?
Yes, I knew that Doc had put me in the room.
Right.
I'm in show business. That's what I felt.
Right.
Every day I'd go to the garden, I'd go, hi, Joey. And I'd go in and whoever, the Monkees, Buddy Rich. I've so many great people.
Wow. And so how long did you?
This woman sitting next to me, right?
Yeah.
Sammy's rehearsing and something else happens. And then the director on TV, you don't see him, you just hear him. So over the intercom, he goes, okay, Aretha. Aretha Franklin was Aretha Franklin. She was there, I had no idea. So she gets up and she goes, you better think about your child. I was like, oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
My mother never worried about where I was because she knew where I was.
Right.
I got home around 6 o'clock every day, and I could prove because I know what was going to happen on the show.
Wow. So that was your high school. that's
the beginning of high school.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I started doing off Broadway plays.
And did you finish there?
Yeah, I went there for 4 years.
And performed. So how would it work with when you would have gigs? Was it just an excused absence?
Well, no, it was either after school.
Or summertime, or
a couple of kids were in Broadway shows, and so they got excused for matinee days on Wednesday.
Right.
And I was doing off Broadway, and when I was rehearsing that, I'd get there after school and not get home until like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Mm.
And I loved it.
Mm.
I was in showbiz.
Wow. What an immersion into an entry into that world.
Well, let me tell you this. This is something I really want you to get across to you. The woman who I auditioned for Performing Arts, her name was Ruth L. Kohler. She came up to me in senior year and she said the best thing anybody's ever said to me. She said, who would have ever thought you had talent? I only took you into this school because you were a nice boy. And that just touched me so deeply because she saved my life. And it was all those Jewish teachers at Performing Arts who said to me, you could be that. Not just that, you could be that.
Mm-hmm.
You opened the door for me and put me in, like I said before, put me in the room. Doc Severinsen put me in the room. So I started learning that you got to be in the room.
Mm-hmm. You
got to be in the room when something is happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so developed this art of getting my foot in the door. And if I get my foot in the door, you're going to buy the vacuum cleaner. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm really good at it.
Well, it sounds like you also, though, you described it, this itching and yearning from a young age to perform, but also to leave to leave and to be in the room or someplace else.
Yeah. Well, most people grow up in their own little neighborhood, and I knew I couldn't. There was no life for me in that neighborhood. Not that it was, horrible for them, but it was not for me.
Mm. So what happened after high school?
After high school, I studied at the Lee Strasberg Institute. I studied Carson, Kanan, and Ruth Gordon. People may not know who they are. They were a very famous theater couple. Carson Kanan was the original director of Funny Girl on Broadway. And Ruth Gordon was a very famous actress. She was in Rosemary's Baby and Harold and Maude. And they also used to write all those scripts for Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn in the 40s. So this was they were like a married couple in the theater. Wow. They paid for me to study at the Lee Strasberg School in the summer after performing arts. And then I went to SUNY Purchase. It was a brand new school. I was in the first graduating class of that school. Really? Yeah.
I think my dad went there at some point.
Oh, really?
I think so. Wow. And
I stayed there for 4 years as an actor. And in my senior year, I had a terrible injury to my knee. They told me I was going to be walking with a limp. And I said, that's not going to happen. So I said, I'm going to fly. So I became a dancer.
Really?
After I got out of Purchase, I became a dancer.
Wow.
I danced in the Ailey Company. I danced on Broadway. My first 2 Broadway shows were as a dancer.
Wow.
And as a dancer, of course, you're doing musicals. And so I decided, I'm in a musical, I'll take a voice lesson. So my friend Charlie took me to his voice
Wait,
teacher.
you hadn't been singing through high school?
Yeah, but not like as a singer.
Right.
We would do little shows at school or something, and I would sing maybe.
Right. Okay.
So I went to this voice teacher, and after the first lesson, he said, "You're an opera singer." And I was like, "I don't think so." I said, "That is a country club that will not have me as a member." I know it. He goes, "No, how many people can act and dance and sing?" He said, so he kept giving me these arias, Verdi, Mozart, all those kind of arias. And what I loved about them is the same thing I loved about Shakespeare. This emotional sides, revenge, love, hate, that like those big universal things. And I said, well, listen, first of all, if I start singing opera, that means I could work anywhere in the world, not just America. And I'll go wherever it breaks. And it broke. It broke. I got, Juilliard gave me a fellowship to study there for free. I studied there for 3.5 years with Pavarotti.
Wow.
Sutherland. I mean, you just name it. And the Metropolitan Opera House grabbed me. And I decided I'm going to go to live in Europe. And I moved to Munich.
Elmore, the way you describe it, it's like these things happening to you, and not like these creative gifts that you were bestowed, that you were given, that you were channeling and nurturing. But like, it sort of it's it's eerie, right? But there's the way that you're describing is like, well, right. So then I went and they told me I should try this, and so I tried that. But it's not this. You tried that. You excelled at the highest like form of.
I mean, there is no magic. I did take all the classes, and the coaching, but what I'm just lucky enough. It never occurred to me. This might sound arrogant. I hope not. It never occurred to me that I couldn't do anything. Never entered my mind. So they said dancer. I was like, okay.
Right.
Opera thing. Now I have the voice. If I didn't have a voice, I wasn't delusional. But I was able to just walk into those different roles. I always thought of it though as an actor playing the part of a dancer, or the actor playing the part of an opera singer. Because I started out as an actor, and I love actors more than anything. Yeah.
Wow. Who are you playing now, Elmore?
Sorry?
Who are you playing now?
Who am I playing now?
Yeah.
Right at this moment?
Yeah.
I'm not being real?
No. I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you. I as an actor, I appreciate that. I appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah.
The roles and I see you have some masks behind you on your walls, but.
Oh yeah. I don't know. Creativity is something that's been my life, my whole life. And I started teaching when I was at Purchase. I was a freshman at Purchase. And I got jobs teaching in neighborhood schools in Westchester. And so I started teaching parallel alongside my performing career. So I've had a horizontal career rather than a vertical career.
And you teach now too, is right?
Yeah, I teach and I direct, and I still perform every now and then.
Wow. What are you excited about teaching these days?
I love inspiring people, young people, the way I was inspired by great teachers. So I find it very, I don't even think of it as a duty. It's my privilege to pass it on. Whenever a group of people are giving you their attention and you're telling them something, that's a great thing. And I was working in Sweden. This is now, we're going up to like 2001, right?
Okay.
I was working in Sweden, and I took a plane back from Stockholm to New York on September 10th, 2001. The day before September 11th, right? And I'm sitting in the plane, we're landing in Newark, and I'm reading in one of those in-flight magazines about how they're building a building twice as tall as the World Trade Center in Kuala Lumpur. So I look out the window and there are the World Trade Towers. And I was like, how are they going to build something twice as tall as these buildings? Unbelievable. 12 hours later, those buildings weren't there. So that was hard for me to wrap my head around that. But my friends and family, they weren't sure. Was I flying on the 11th, the 10th? Where am I? You couldn't call because the telephone lines were down. There was no computers, so you couldn't reach anyone. But then after a couple of days, this was before texting, people started sending emails to check on each other, friends and stuff. And my email chain became very long. And in each of those emails, friends were sending condolences and stuff to people. And at the end of every email virtually, they had a quote from like Buddha or Jesus or Maya Angelou, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, whatever. And I'm reading all these wise quotes, these words of wisdom. And I started feeling something really funny. I started getting angry. And I said, what? I said, why am I getting angry? And that is when I realized, I was like, well, why do we have to quote somebody else at a time like this? Why can't people speak from the heart and speak their own words of wisdom? If not now, when? Right? But that's when this idea came to me. Maybe there's a way to help people cultivate their inner wisdom. And I came up with the title of this course called A Course in Genius. Now, when I say that to people, people think, oh, well, you're a genius. You're going to teach me how to be a genius. And it's not that at all. As a matter of fact, it's not even about human genius. It's about genius as a creative phenomenon of nature. You can't get more brilliant than nature, right? In the way it works and balances. So I had to go, this is a subject matter that's really big. And I was telling my friend Paz Reinstein just the other day, this isn't a tomb I knew I could just go in and rob and kind of like write a book and, have a gimmick. I really wanted to know what are the genius creative principles in nature and how to impart them. So I went years studying and I started writing this book called A Course in Genius. The subtitle is What You Didn't Know You Already Knew. Because I'm bringing out in people what they already know. You've had this experience, I'm sure, where somebody says something and it rings true. A new idea, something that you've never thought of, but it rings true. There's an inner mechanism where we know, and to how to develop that and cultivate that, just the way geniuses do.
I love that. There's an idea, there's a midrash, it's a rabbinic legend actually, but it says that, that we learn all the Torah, all the spiritual wisdom we're meant to learn in life in utero, right? When we're in the womb. And when we exit the womb, when we enter into this world, the messenger that we've been studying with the angel, whoever it is, presses us right above our lips right here, which is why we have this indentation. And then suddenly we forget everything that we've learned. But when we encounter that, the learnings that feel familiar, that feel like, oh, we've encountered them before, I had a teacher would say that's because you have learned them before, right? That's what that's
the whole meaning of the word recognize. You're recognizing. So that means you kind of knew before, or you're remembering,
right?
As opposed to dismembering.
And so, who are your students, and how do they find you?
Well, that's not all I do. It started off intermittently, and I taught it in Scotland, in Sweden, here in New York. I don't have a steady school. That's what I'm starting to develop with, like I said, my partner, Paz Reinstein. We're collaborating on how we can bring astrology and A Course in Genius together, these genius principles together. And we started something that probably will develop into a regular podcast. So it's slowly building.
Wow. What a versatile, what a diverse career and interests that you have.
It's the people that I've met and the places that I've been. And people always think, oh my God, you lived in Germany, you lived in Sweden, you lived in Europe. That must be so glamorous. It's really hard when you leave. You can't really come back in the same way. You can't really go back to your old once you leave. And it can be very, very lonely. I'll never forget my first Christmas in Munich. And there was no one else in my apartment building. They had all gone to the suburbs, to their parents' house, whatever. Families got together, and I was totally alone in Munich. Walking on the street at night, there was not another soul. I thought I was the last person on the earth. So it was very lonely. Then you call home, and your family's together, and they go, "Happy Christmas, Megan!" And you're like, "Oh." So you do pay a price for it. It's not all glamorous. It really isn't. But I can't do anything else. It's not a choice. It's a calling, just like you've been called.
And you've said this earlier, right? You've been lonely, but not loneliness. Will you say something? Will you say
alone, not lonely?
Yeah, alone. Yeah.
Yeah, I can have a party for one. I can make myself laugh. I feel good being alone. When I was a kid, I used to just spend hours drawing or something. My mother would come in, when you don't hear a little kid in the other room, you know they're up to something.
Right.
So my mother would come in and check on me, and she'd see me just drawing peacefully, whatever. So consequently, she left me alone because she had 6 other kids to think about. Right. And yeah, my imagination, my world, my creative thing, I was fine with it. So I wasn't lonely. I've been lonely for a day or two or something like that for any given occasion or something like that. But I'm not a lonely person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also not a hermit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very social. You know.
It's we've been living in this quarantine, and there's been all this talk of essential services, and it strikes me, that, and now I know New York just entered into beginning of phase 2, but it strikes me that there's a Torah spiritual wisdom that you're offering in sort of acknowledging that each person has a certain type of like essential service to provide. And I feel that way deeply around like creative artists in general, especially now. And you talk about like the spiritual resistance that we might need to overcome a situation, or a political time or context.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about that, how and how your music or your artistry or your creative endeavor serve as a type of spiritual resistance to the forces that are at bay.
Once I realized that the really great artists, like take Mozart, for example, what does a great artist do? I've heard this referred to applied to religion, but I also applied to the arts. Who was it? Not Buckminster Fuller. Reinhold Niebuhr said that great religion should seek to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comforted. And that's what an artist should do too. That's what Mozart did. He comforted the afflicted, but he afflicted the comfortable, the court in Vienna. You know what I mean? But after he wrote Così fan tutte, they were like, forget about you, we're throwing you, they threw his body in a garbage can. After Ibsen wrote Ghosts, he had to get out of Norway. But an artist, that's what an artist does. An artist comforts those who are afflicted by telling their story and sticking it to the ones that are so comfortable. And that is something that I totally resonate with, my kind of personality.
Wow. I think about that. I actively think about that principle, but I'm trying to.
You have a little bit. You have that spunk in you.
A little, yeah.
You do.
I do. But it's something, it's a tricky balance, right? To find, because on the one hand, there's beauty in the world, there's wonder in the world, there's the parts of life that we don't want to take for granted, that we don't want to. But there's also deep and profound suffering, and often we can live life with blinders to other people's suffering, whether it's a different faith or because they're a different skin color, whatever it might be. But Heschel talks about this. Abraham Joshua Heschel, he talks about living life with a certain type of radical amazement of what to the mystery of living. That wonder can come from the mundane and the meta, the beautiful things that we pass, but also the tragic things that we encounter, to still hold on to that sense of wonder and awe. So
what pulled you in this direction that you've gone in?
What's that, the rabbinate?
Yeah.
Or look at you turning the tables here.
Well, I'm so interested because I know a little bit of your family. Your family's a very artistic.
I know.
Open family.
My grandmother, my bubby, said to me when I wanted to go to rabbinical school, she said, "But I don't understand. You're an ethical person." I make that choice every day, Elmore. I try to make that choice every day of living a life in the rabbinate of service. But I've always been passionate about people and about
Injustice.
injustice. We live in a time right now where, the highest office of the land is a microphone to just some of the most base and hateful instincts that
In ignorance.
it's it's a profound period of time to I was a student who says sometimes I wish I wasn't living amid such. I wish I wasn't living through history, and I wonder when are we ever not living through history? But
Right. Well, I mean, I lived through the 60s, right? I was, that was my just pre-teen years.
yeah,
And a lot of stuff happened in the 60s. I feel like my generation was taken by the scruff of the neck and forced to look as they blew everybody's head off. And by the end of the 60s, the message clearly was, you better shut up too. Because they started killing college students in State and Mississippi. So my generation was like, forget about it. Let's go disco dancing, drugs, sex, rock and roll. And then we crashed in the 80s with AIDS. So, my generation has been through a lot. We're still here and we're going through this too.
right.
We've been through 9/11. How old were you when that happened?
It's my first day of high school, of ninth grade.
Oh, so you remember very well.
Yeah. So so as someone who has lived through such history but also created some immensely beautiful art along the way, what do you tell to people of my generation and folks at home who might feel the despair from the Facebook feed or the news? What
Well, first of all, these people are here today, gone tomorrow. Presidents are here today, gone tomorrow. Right? What is it that endures? If you don't know who it is you want to be, it doesn't matter what you do. Because doing comes out of being. My first day of high school, the acting teacher said to us, you're actors now. You're not going to be actors after you've gone through the program for 4 years. You're actors now, and now you do all the things that an actor does. Learn your lines, show up on time, be ready, be professional, blah, blah, blah. So, you start with what it is you want to be. And then you do all of those things that proceed from that. I think there's nothing like youthful optimism or hope. And I think you gotta, when you talk to somebody who's old, like I am, you have to realize that they're not talking to you from the past. They're talking to you from the future. They're talking to you from where you still have yet to go. Right? You have to know the present from the past and speak the present from the future. That is what a whole, for me, human being who shows up in the world is. And that's the great work, because, although slavery in this country has a black face, we're all slaves. And we're born into this world to be part of the slave rebellion.
Love that. Elmore, I want to read your book. Is your book available for purchase, for reading?
Yeah, it's 98% through. It's just taken me so long. Like I said, it took Mark Twain 25 years to write Huckleberry Finn. So
Mm.
I still got a little couple of years left.
Dylan says to your last point. Dylan says, you got to serve somebody. It could be the devil or it could be the Lord, but you got to serve somebody.
Yes, service.
Service. It says flip on the servitude, but
Yes.
So you have a concert coming up. Will you share a word about that before we sign off?
Yes, on Wednesday I'm going to be singing with your father. I was in your father's home last week, and he asked me to let's just sit at the piano and sing some songs. We were closer to that whole George Floyd happening, so that was very alive within me. And so the songs that I chose to sing, because of the type of voice that I have, I wanted to sing songs from the spirituals of the slaves, which was the first Black American music. And my voice suits that old kind of voice.
Yes.
The voice of that music. So I chose some songs that are resisting songs of heartache, songs of love, songs of hope. And of course, I did some Yiddish songs with your father too.
Wow. Will you share maybe just a word, because when anyone hears Elmore sing in Yiddish, it's as if you're hearing a fluent Yiddish speaker. Will you share? And I know this is part of the territory of being an actor and certainly singing an opera, but will you share just a bit of what that's like to sing in a language that's not your first or second,
Yes.
and that is just as I don't know, heart-wrenching-y? Is that a word?
When I went to high school is when I started finding out that there's a difference between, I just thought white people were white people. But then when I went to high school, I learned that there were Jewish kids and there were Italian kids and Irish kids and Catholic, so all these different kinds of kids. And we used to, because nobody lived in the neighborhood, schools in Midtown, we all lived in the outer boroughs. People, whenever we visited each other, we would go to their neighborhood. And so I was used to going to other people's neighborhoods. And I was welcomed more than anything. Again, I'm not just saying this because of you. I tell everybody this. By my Jewish friends, Michael Cattaneo and Charlie Flicker, these Jewish families took me in and treated me just like one of their own. So, I remember the first time I saw bagels and lox. I didn't know what the hell that was. I'm sitting around the table with this family in Bayside, and it was cream cheese there, and I put on the cream cheese on the bagel like it was butter, very thin. And Michael's father was sitting next to me. He playfully slapped me in the back of my head and goes, "What's wrong with you? Put some cream cheese on there." So I was like, I felt so loved. The point is, you got to be willing to go into other people's neighborhood and take it in. And I'm good with I have a good ear, so I can learn languages well. I like language. I love words. But also it's like an aroma. When you walk in the house, you might not know all the ingredients, but you can smell the aroma. You got to get the aroma of the language, and singing Yiddish was helped by the fact that I lived in Germany. And I know the German thing. And so the Yiddish thing, I get that too, the klezmer kind of jazzy, kind of, I feel that. It's a sense, when I lived in Sweden, I also, I always got great reviews. They said my Swedish was better than the Swedish song. Because I worked hard on it. They didn't,
Right.
Yeah, but it wasn't just phonetics. I get the nuance in the language, and I get the style. It's the quality of attention that you give to anything.
Comes from your kishkas or your neshama, your soul, your insides.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where can we go tomorrow to hear you sing?
Well, this is on Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yes. God, this is it's a Zoom thing like this.
Oh yeah.
Yes, through the New York Folksbiene National Yiddish
Oh,
Theater.
through the Folksbiene. So through the Folksbiene site or
Yes.
their Facebook page.
Yes.
Elmore, thanks so much for spending this past chunk of time with me and opening your heart and sharing of your stories and wisdom. What a gift.
Well, I'm not used to people being interested in listening to anything I have to say, but I really appreciate it that you asked me.
Well, check the comment section, Elmore, because I think there's a tremendous amount of interest in what you have to say and certainly what you have to teach the world. So thank you for being you. And
all right, buddy. I can't wait to see you.
to be continued.
Love you.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.